Let's bring in Jamil Jaffer. He's the founder and executive director of the National Security Institute, also a former associate White House counsel to President Bush. Jamil, thanks very much for joining us. Victory Day, it's how the Russians commemorate the end of World War II, the defeat of Nazi Germany. It's what we call VE, or Victory in Europe Day. But Putin has really recast this war in that vein with this bogus claim, ridiculous claim, that they are fighting Nazism in Ukraine. What can we expect from Vladimir Putin on Victory Day?
Well, Rich, you're exactly right. You know, this is a day that'll be celebrated in Russia, but they're talking about 28 military parades across the country, primarily in Moscow, but in a number of other cities. They're going to be deploying a lot of their forces to these parades, military members, weaponry, tanks, missiles, the like. In particular, I think what we're concerned about is their show of force demonstrating their nuclear capabilities on their planes and the like, and saying, look, these are the capabilities we have. Don't mess with us, Western powers. We're doing what we're going to do in Ukraine. You've already said you're not going to intervene directly. Don't do it because we've got nuclear weapons. That, of course, is a shot across the bow towards us, because what they're saying is, look, you don't want to provoke World War III, and the president has indicated he's very concerned about that. The question becomes, what are we going to do about all the killing of civilians in particular that continues now in Ukraine today, Rich?
Well, what about that? What is the United States going to do beyond this massive equipment, billions of dollars going towards the Ukrainians, the intelligence help? What more can the United States do, and what more should the United States do?
Well, Rich, at some point we have to say, look, we have a red line here. We've talked about the red lines when it comes to NATO and not touching NATO, but essentially what that means is we've told Vladimir Putin, do what you want in Ukraine. And he has. He's engaged in what we all agree are war crimes, attacking schools, attacking hospitals, attacking apartment buildings. And the question becomes, how long are we going to let that go on? What happens if he uses chemical weapons? What happens if he threatens the use of tactical nuclear weapons? Today, the situation is strategically ambiguous, which is great when you're talking about two nuclear powers pointing their own weapons at each other. But when you're talking about an ongoing war where civilians are being killed, the question is, what else can the West do? And I think the answer has got to be, Rich, we've got to say, if you go much further, Vladimir Putin, we're going to need to intervene. The Western powers coming together. And if you use nuclear weapons or chemical weapons, all bets are off the table. We will come after you and we will win.
Well, what about the concern there, and from the administration and others, that type of approach could get us into a nuclear war with Russia?
Well, look, Rich, Vladimir Putin doesn't want a war with us any more than we want a war with him. He knows it's a war he would lose. He's already on his back feet with what's going on in Ukraine, and right now, with no incentive to slow down. I mean, the CIA director, Bill Burns, even said just today at an event in D.C. that Vladimir Putin sees his opportunity here to double down on the killing of civilians, double down on this war, and we've got to make it painful for him. We're already doing that with the weapons we're putting in and the like. The question becomes, will he continue it? And if so, how far do we let him go, Rich?
Real quick, when it comes to what could be happening in NATO, you've got Finland and Sweden considering joining the bloc. Do you think they will? And what will it mean if they do?
I think they will, and I think it's the right thing. Frankly, we should have brought them in long ago. It's true they're on the board with Russia, and Russia will see it as a provocation, but Russia's already gone into Ukraine without any provocation. So this idea somehow that it'll up the ante, to me, is not accurate. We got to extend our protection over those countries and bring them in. Expect them to do what a NATO member does, which is spend defense budgets the right way and provide for their own defense, but we ought to bring them in and make them part of the Western bloc, as they always should have been.
Yeah, Putin thought he could divide NATO here, and he's only made it stronger. Jamil Jaffer, thanks very much for joining us this afternoon.